Greetings, welcome back to the channel. We are still discussing the power now. This is part four. We're gonna do our breakdown. We're gonna hop right into it. The last video, I think I held y'all a little too long. It was like 31 minutes. I didn't mean for it to be that long. So see if I can get through this a little quicker. And yeah, let's hop right into it. Okay, so the first key point we want to look at, it states mind in the way I use the word is not just thought, it includes your emotions as well as all unconscious mental, emotional, reactive patterns. So when Eckhart is using the word mind, he's talking about the thoughts and the emotions that are associated with it. So typically when we have negative thoughts, we get a negative feeling. We have positive thoughts, we get a positive feeling. Okay. So when Eckhart is using the word mind throughout this book, he's talking about the thoughts and the feelings. Okay. Let's go to the next key point. Emotion arises at the place where mind and body meet. It is the body's reaction to your mind, or you might say a reflection of your mind in the body. So again, anger is going to have some kind of emotion or feeling inside the body. So you might feel like the thoughts are somewhere in your head and the emotion is somewhere in the body. A lot of times you can feel emotion in your chest, your abdomens. It just depends. So emotion is where the two meet. Okay. Let's keep going. For example, an attack thought or a hostile thought would create a buildup of energy in the body that we call anger. So again, you might wake up in the morning, I hate my job, I don't want to go here, I can't stand the boss. Those type of thoughts will start building up an energy in your body of anger, right? So, and typically when you're thinking some negative thought, it's going to be accompanied by another negative thought and another and another and another. And then so this energy of anger is starting to build up in your body. And sometimes you lose control or you lose consciousness of it, and you become attached to the emotion where you don't even realize you're angry and you have this anger building up in you because you're so identified with it. All right. So that's what he means by mind. It's the thoughts and the emotion. Okay. Let's keep going. A strong unconscious emotional pattern may even manifest as an external event that appears to just happen to you. Okay, so this is kind of where you go into the space of a law of attraction, or where your inner reality, where your outer reality reflects your inner reality. So if you're an angry, bitter, upset person, then the external world is going to reflect that back to you. So the example he gives, I have observed that people who carry a lot of anger inside without being aware of it and without expressing it are more likely to be attacked verbally or even physically by other angry people, and often for no apparent reason. So again, if you're a person that's always angry or you're always thinking negative thoughts, you're going to have a buildup of negative energy, a negative vibe or vibration, a negative frequency, right? It's all the same thing. And that's going to start attracting negative events because the vibration or the vibe and the energy you're giving off is something negative. So, for example, at a job I used to work at, the boss was always negative, always had something to say, bad to say, something. She was very angry all the time, nasty attitude. And whenever she walked in the room, you could just feel her energy, and it was always negative. Nobody liked her. Nobody wanted to be around her. It's just negative energy. So these thoughts and these feelings, they do project an energy, and it will emanate from you. And because it emanates from you, it's going to draw back the energy that's coming off of you. It's going to draw the same energy to you. The old saying that like attracts like, right? So we want to be mindful of that and get to the point to where we're not giving off this negative energy. So we got to clean up our negative thoughts, clean up these negative feelings, clean up our mind, and then these negative events will stop happening. And again, that's kind of going into like the law of attraction and manifesting this, then a third, because it talks a lot about having a high vibration or a high frequency so you can create great opportunities and a great life for yourself based on a high vibration and high frequency. But if you got a low vibration based on negative thoughts and negative feelings, then you're going to experience life in a negative way. So we got to clean that up, and Eckhart is going to help us with. Okay, let's keep going. An emotion usually represents an amplified and energized thought pattern. And because of its often overpowering energetic charge, it is not easily initially to stay present enough to be able to watch it. So, in other words, when you have one negative thought, the second negative thought comes, a third, and now you get a stream of negative thoughts, and you get into this feeling of negativity. And because you get identified with it, you really don't realize that you're angry. It's kind of like road rage. Somebody cuts you off on the road, automatically just get upset, angry, cuss the person out, and then you want to probably pull up beside them running off the road. At that point, you're so identified with what happened, the anger that's building up, the negative thoughts that's going on, you cannot disconnect from the whole experience and the situation because you completely lost it. You just identified with what happened. So you can't even separate yourself to say, hey, this person cut me off. Maybe they're in a rush. Maybe somebody pregnant in the car. Maybe somebody's sick at home, the house on fire, anything like that, because you've been triggered to the point to where you're just completely reacting. And it's really not you reacting, it's the program that you have that's reacting because you completely lost consciousness at that point. This is sometimes when you hear people just go out and hurt people or kill people or go through a murderous rage. And then when a person comes to, they say, I don't remember what happened. Well, sometimes that's true. They completely lost their mind. They completely gone unconscious to the point to where they're doing anything. And then when they finally come to, it's a horrific scene. But we don't want to get to that point. And again, like I said, get this book, go buy, get it on Audible, get it on Kindle, the whole 9 yards, and really immerse yourself in the book because as we get further along, we're going to see how we are able to disconnect from some of these thoughts and emotions and put a little space in there, okay? The next point, the thought pattern creates a magnified reflection of itself in the form of an emotion. And the vibrational frequency of the emotion keeps feeding the original thought pattern. So now you're in this cycle, negative thought, negative feeling. The negative feeling is going to create a negative thought. The negative thought is going to keep feeding a negative feeling. And before you know it, you're crying, you're depressed, you're angry, you're enraged. You're in this cycle of suffering. That's the right word for it. You're in a cycle of suffering and you can't break out of it because the negative thought is feeding the negative feeling is feeding the negative thought. And unless you can break that cycle, that pattern, by going to meditate, read, study, or maybe somebody comes along, give you an encouraging word. Unless you can break it, you're going to stay in that space. So it's good to have a certain amount of awareness and consciousness to realize that, hey, I'm having some negative thoughts. I don't have to identify with these thoughts. I realize they're negative thoughts, but they're not mine. They're not me. I don't have to identify with them. So you put a little space in it and you become the observer of the thoughts and not identify with the thoughts. Okay. Let's keep going. By dwelling mentally on a situation, event, or person that is the perceived cause of an emotion, the thought feeds energy to the emotion, which in turn energizes the thought pattern, and so on. So again, constantly thinking about the guy that cut you off on the road. And a lot of times what happens is just sticking with the road rage incident, they may cut you off on the road, you may go off on them and have that whole experience. But what tends to happen is you'll finally get to your destination, maybe you're going to work, and you're still thinking about the person that cut you off on the road. Now, even though it happened maybe 15 or 20 minutes ago, you're still feeding into that same thought and you're thinking about it over and over. And it's just feeding and making the emotion grow stronger and stronger, whether it's anger or whatever the emotion may be. You're constantly thinking about it, so you keep the emotion going. And if you keep the negative thoughts and the negative emotion going, this is what's going to start affecting your vibration. Now the vibration is negative. Now you're having a bad day at work. The boss wants you to do something you don't want to do. You got to do extra work that you don't want to do now because your reality is going to start reflecting your inner being. Your inner being is negative now because you had this road rage incident and now you're dwelling on it. You're keeping that emotion going and now the vibration is changing. And what tends to happen is because you stay in that space of negativity for so long, a day becomes, a few hours become the day. A day become the next day become the week, and so on and so forth. And it all started from a road rage incident. I remember hearing something about deers. When deers get in a situation, or I guess animals in general, and they have to activate their fight or flight. So let's say it's a gunshot go off in the woods, and they take off running. They take off running. They gone. They get safety. The guy with the gun is gone. What a deer would do is, after the danger is gone, they'll go back to the area, start eating, right? They forget about the event. The problem with humans is we don't forget about the event. We constantly dwell on it over and over and over again. and we make such a big deal out of it, and we keep that negative emotion going. We keep the fear going, the guilt going, the doubt going, and nothing is even happening to us in the present moment. That's why this book, that's why it's called The Power Now, because Eckhart wants us to know that even if something happened negative to you last week, yesterday, or 10 minutes ago, right now in the present moment, there's probably nothing happening to you. So anybody that's listening to this, if you got other things going on in your life, you might have, relationship problems, bills, a job, or whatever the case may be. If you're sitting here, excuse me, if you're sitting down listening to this right now, there's probably nothing actively happening to you right now in the present moment. So a lot of the suffering is coming from past events or future worry. We're worrying about what's going to happen in the future, but we're still down and upset about what happened in the past, which is why we have to come back to the present moment, because most of the time, nothing's bad happening in the present moment. And what Eckhart will say is, if there is something happening in the present moment, of course, deal with it. If you in a fight or you get attacked, then you have to deal with it. You take action, protect yourself, get to safety, et cetera, et cetera. But once you have protected yourself and you've gotten to safety, again, the problem comes in is we keep dwelling on it, suffering through it mentally from the past. I can't believe this person attacked me. I can't believe this, then the third happened. And now we worry about the future. What if it happens again? I need to go and get all these locks on the doors. I need to get an alarm system. And then you may not have the money for the alarm system, but you feel you need the alarm system. And so now stress is coming, fear is coming, et cetera, and all this in the future, right? So again, being in a present moment, disconnecting from all these negative thought patterns, negative emotions, coming back to the present is a way we can rid ourselves of a lot of this mental suffering. Okay, let's keep going. One of the main tasks of the mind is to fight or remove that emotional pain, which is one of the reasons for its incessant activity. But all it can ever achieve is to cover it up temporarily. So the mind is trying to figure out how to get rid of this pain and the suffering by thinking, overthinking, overanalyzing. Again, I got attacked. I got to get some locks. Okay, let me get a camera system. I want to get automatic locks for the doors. I want to get a timer. I want to do this, then, and the third. And the mind is trying to figure out how to keep you safe. I mean, that's not a bad thing, but what tends to happen is we overdo it and it becomes a problem. Like you said, it's incessant. It becomes too much to deal with, and now it creates a problem. There's nothing wrong with thoughts. There's nothing wrong with the mind. There's nothing wrong with the body. There's nothing wrong with emotions. You're not going to rid yourself of them. They have their place. But when they become overactive, that's the problem. And because of our programming from a little kid, most people have an overactive thoughts. We think all the time, we can't shut it off, and so we become a slave to it, so to speak. Okay, and like he says, all it can do is achieve all it can ever achieve is to cover it up temporarily. So it may give you a little peace or the illusion of a little peace, but we got to get back to the present moment and being able to disconnect from these thoughts, these feelings, and realize that we are not the thoughts. We're not even the feelings. We can observe those, and by observing them, we can disconnect from them. And if we disconnect, a little bit space in them, a little bit more space, and a little bit more space, then eventually, the suffering will come to an end. And let's keep going. You will not be free of that pain until you cease to derive your sense of self from identification with the mind, which is to say, from ego. The mind is then toppled from its place of power and being, reveals itself as your true nature. And again, like we said earlier, disconnecting from the thoughts and from the emotions, the feeling in the body. And when you disidentify from it, disconnect from it, you'll bring that space in. And that space is the being. It's your true nature and your true essence. But we got to be able to disconnect from these thoughts. Let's keep going. What about positive emotions such as love and joy? Okay, this is a question asked in the book. The answer is they are inseparable from your natural state of interconnectedness with being. Glimpses of love and joy or brief moments of deep peace are possible whenever a gap occurs in the stream of thought. And again, that's that space I was talking about, that disconnect. When you disconnect from that mental noise, all these negative thoughts, all these negative feelings, and you allow that space to come in, that's where you get glimpses of love and joy. Now, the state of love, joy, peace kindness, et cetera, that's your natural state. That's who you are truly as a being. It's just covered up by all the negative thoughts and the negative feelings, all the mental noise, all the news, the movies, the TV shows, the music, the books. Um, it's just covered up by a lot of nonsense, a lot of stuff. So when you can remove all of this stuff, then you get to your natural state, which is peace, joy, happiness, et cetera, is already there. The illusion is that we think we got to go on a journey to find it. And the truth is, we just have to have a realization we already have it. We just got to get rid of the fluff. Okay? We got to get rid of the fluff. So let's keep going. For most people, such gaps happen rarely and only accidentally. In moments when the mind is rendered speechless, sometimes triggered by great beauty, extreme physical exertion, or even great danger. So there's, again, like you said, somebody might be beautiful. You might be outside in nature. You might see a beautiful scenery. And then you just go in that space of oneness, being, source, happiness, peace, because you might be at a mountaintop or in the forest or somewhere and it's breathtaking. You can't believe it. You don't have a lot of activity, mind activity. You're just connected with Mother Nature or a beautiful woman or a handsome man or maybe a newborn baby. You'll have that sense of peace and joy. There's not a lot of mind activity going, but you get that sense of happiness and joy. He says, even in great danger, you will sense it because that's what happens when you see if somebody is hurt or stuck on a car, you see the mother lift up a car to save the child. You can be so dialed in and so focused to where all that mind activity is gone and you have to be present to take care of things. Or people, when they climbing up mountains, free climbing with their hands and feet, you have to be so present and so focused in that moment. There's not a lot of other mind activity going on to cause any negativity because you have to be dialed in to do those things. So as humans, we do get gaps of it, or we do get, it does come to fruition sometimes. It's just not long enough. So we'll all get a sense of it, but the goal is to make that happiness and that joy, that peace last longer, longer, and longer. And again, we just removing the fluff, y'all. We don't have to go looking for it. We just have to allow it to come into being, so to speak. Okay, I'm trying to get us through this, y'all. I don't want to hold you too long. I actually got a timer here, 17 minutes, so let me keep going. Love, joy, and peace are deep states of being, or rather, three aspects of the state of interconnectedness with being. So, okay, the interconnectedness with being, your true nature, love, joy, and peace. So anything that's anytime you feel that sense of love, joy, and peace, you know you're in your natural state of being. Okay. If it's some kind of suffering, negative thoughts, then ego or some illusion has stepped in and is covering up that peace. And again, we got to remove it. Let's keep going. As such, they have no opposite. And this is one of my favorite quotes in the world. And this is the first time I've ever heard it. Eckhart said it, is that love has no opposite. I love that quote because typically you will hear the opposite of love is hate, or sometimes you will hear the opposite of love is fear. But how Eckhart poses it, and like I said, I love it. Love has no opposite. So if fear is present, this does not mean that love is absent or fear has taken over love or it's the opposite of love. No, love has no opposite. Love is still there. You're just focused on fear or allow fear to come in and just convolute your mind or your state of being. But love has no opposite. This is because they arise from beyond the mind. Emotions, on the other hand, beyond being part of the dualistic mind, are subject to the law of opposites. So again, doubt, fear, guilt, those things like that have their opposites. But love, it has no opposite because it comes from a state of being. It's permanent, it's pure, it's eternal. Okay, it's from source or the universal consciousness or God, if you like to say. So it has no opposite. It's not subject to, nice and mean or kind and angry, et cetera, et cetera. Love is what and who we truly are. Okay, let's keep going. The very thing that gives you pleasure today will give you pain tomorrow, or it will leave you, so its absence will give you pain. And what is often referred to as love may be pleasurable and exciting for a while, but it is an addictive clinging, an extremely needy condition that can turn into its opposite at the flick of a switch. So what he's saying is most of the love that people are experiencing is not really love. It's really maybe attachment, or I don't know the word I'm looking for. It's a word I'm trying to think of, but I can't think of. But it's really just attachment, or you just, you know, overly excited to be in some type of new relationship or have some new car or new material item. It's not really love, because if it was love, it would not go away. It doesn't dissipate. So most of what people are experiencing is not love. It's just a form of attachment. That person or that thing may be filling a void for you, but it's only going to be temporarily. And once it disappoints you, or like Eckhart says, once it leaves you or it's no longer in your present, you're gonna be sad, upset, mad, and it's going probably to cause some suffering. So that's not love. Love does not cause suffering. Okay, it does not cause suffering. So a lot of these feelings we have, we might call them love, but a lot of times it's just attachment. Let's keep going. Real love doesn't make you suffer. How could it? It doesn't suddenly turn into hate, nor does real joy turn into pain. As I said, even before you are enlightened, before you have freed yourself from your mind, you may get glimpses of true joy, true love, or even a deep inner peace, still but vibrantly alive. These are aspects of true nature, which is usually obscured by the mind. So again, think of a newborn baby. You know, when you get a newborn baby, you see how young, innocent, vulnerable they are, and somebody has to protect the baby. Like that's a true feeling of genuine love. That love doesn't go away. Now, the child grows up and may get on your nerves, but I'm saying focus on that feeling and that aspect that when that newborn baby is there, it's wrapped up in that blanket, and you have this sense of um, all is right in the world. There's something bigger than me. There's something greater than me, or I'm a part of something. That sense, that being right there, you're connecting back into source, even if for a moment. And like Eckhart said, a lot of times we'll get these, but they only for a brief moment. So what we're looking to do is extend that brief moment, or realize that that brief moment is really who and what we are. Okay, let's keep going. Pain is inevitable as long as you are identified with your mind, which is to say, as long as you are unconscious, spiritually speaking. I'm talking here primarily of emotional pain, which is also the main cause of physical pain and physical disease. So, as long as you identify with these negative thoughts and these negative feelings, which we often do because we identify with the body, we think we are our body. We don't realize that we're eternal beings, we're soul, we're energy, whatever the words you want to use. So, because we identify with the body and we identify with these thoughts, whatever thoughts come in our head or whatever happens to our body, we think it's us, it's because of us, it's our fault, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you start to realize that you're beyond the body, you're beyond the mind, you're eternal already, then you're able to detach some from the body, the mind, the thoughts, the feelings, and you can put a little space in there and get back to being. Okay, so you got to come to the realization that you're eternal already. Billy Carson had a quote. He says, I forgot how it goes exactly, but it's like you're already eternal. That's over with. You know, you don't have to worry about the being eternal part. You're already eternal. You cannot die. There is no end of death. Eckhart has another quote that says, life has no opposite. I really like that too. So death is not the opposite of life. Death may be the opposite of birth, but it's not the opposite of life. There will be no end to you. And when you start realizing that you're an eternal being and you don't have to be afraid of dying, so to speak, or having your existence come to an end, that will help you disidentify with the body some and the negative thoughts, okay? Because we tend to think that we're the body. So when the body dies, that's it. But that's not the case. So as you continue on your own journey of personal growth and spiritual growth and start disconnecting from the body, you'll come to that realization. I can say it all day long. It doesn't mean anything coming from me. But if you're sitting here watching this video, it seems like you're on a certain path of personal and or spiritual growth. You'll come to that realization. Let's keep going. Seen from a higher perspective, both the negative and the positive polarities are faces of the same coin, are both part of the underlying pain that is inseparable from the mind identified egoic state of consciousness. Again, being identified with the mind, which is the thoughts and the feeling that the positive and negative polarities you can't get away from it. You can't get away from something good happening and something bad happening over here when you identify with the mind, when you identify with the thoughts and the body. Because it's cool and it's great to only think positive thoughts, right? But what happens when negative thoughts come? You're typically going to start believing the negative thoughts too. So it's difficult to disconnect from the negative and only, I'm not going to say it's difficult, but it may be difficult for you to disconnect from the negative thoughts and just only keep the positive thoughts, because how can you, if you're thinking of the positive, you're going to accept the negative too, unless you can detach from both. Now, there's nothing wrong with having positive thoughts. They're great. But again, even being attached to positive thoughts can lead to suffering, because what did Eckhart Tolle say once in a couple of last slides? Once those positive thoughts leave you, now you're stuck in suffering again. And he was talking about love or something material, but it's the same concept. So let's say you get a brand new Mercedes Benz or a Ferrari, you in love with the car, it's nice, you riding, it feel good. New car smell goes away. You know, have it a couple of months, it's not as exciting, right? But it's still a new car, you like it. Boom, have an accident, total the car. Car is gone, so now you're in a state of suffering because the car got totaled. It's gone. You're not riding good anymore. You got to get a rental car. You're probably in a Toyota or something like that. And now you're upset because, wow, you was attached and identified to the car. You got a sense of self from the car. The same thing that was just positive that made you feel good riding in the car. Now it's gone. So now you're back in a place of suffering because you don't have something. Same thing with the positive thoughts. When the positive thoughts leave, now you're back suffering because the positive thoughts are gone. So we like positive thoughts. Nothing wrong with that. We don't want to be attached to them. We don't want to derive our sense of self from a positive thought just because it's positive. Okay? Let's keep going. There are two levels to your pain. Pain that you create now and the pain from the past that still lives on in your mind and body. Ceasing to create pain in the present and dissolving past pain. This is what I want to talk about now. Okay, so he's talking about creating pain now and the pain that is from the past. So past memories and worrying about the future, because you can worry about the future now, even though nothing's happening in the future. You can worry about be upset about the past now, even though the past is over with, right? So you really got to get to the point where we can disconnect from the past pain and disconnect from the worry of the future and be in a present moment. Pretty sure this is the last slide, and it is. So let's go over these last key points. An emotion usually represents an amplified and energized thought pattern. So a whole bunch of negative thoughts is going to build up emotion. A whole bunch of positive thought is going to build up an emotion. Okay. Now, of course, we would prefer positive thoughts. We still don't want to become attached to those thoughts and identify with them. Okay. Keep going. Glimpses of love and joy or brief moments of deep peace are possible whenever a gap occurs in the stream of thought. So whenever we can disconnect from these thought patterns, joy, peace, love will be there. It'll be present just because we disconnected from the negative thoughts. We don't have to go looking for these things. They're already there, okay? And last, love, joy, and peace are deep states of being, or rather three aspects of the state of interconnectedness with being. As such, they have no opposite. Love, joy, peace, that's your true essence, that's your true being. There's no opposite of it. We may think there's an opposite because that's the illusion and the programming we have, but they don't have any opposite. We just tend to focus on the fear, doubt, and the worry way more than we come back to the present moment and being. Okay, so that's it. That's all, y'all. I'm at 29 minutes. Man, I didn't mean to go 30 minutes again. I thought it was going to be a lot shorter, but hey, it took the time that it took. So it is what it is. Thank you. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, the whole 9 yard. If you enjoyed the video and want to send some financial support, it's definitely appreciated. You can do that at buymeacoffee.com/peace and positivity, cash out $KOS901, or you can just scan those QR codes for either one of those. I appreciate y'all. I trust that this gave y'all some understanding. It's going to add some peace and positivity into your life. And look here, I'll catch y'all in the next video, okay? Take care.